If you had the choice, would you take the red pill or the blue pill? The blue means you will continue to remain in a made-up reality, while the red pill will act as a locating device and will find your body and prepare it to be unplugged from the matrix. Follow me down the rabbit hole to find out if we are living in a simulation. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the rabbit hole. I am your host, Dani, and today we are going to talk about the simulation argument and if we're living in a simulation or if it's all just totally normal and there's no simulations out there right now for us to be living in. This conspiracy theory has officially got me freaked out. I'm trying not to think too much about it because what am I going to do if I'm living in a simulation? I can't do anything about it. If I'm not living in a simulation, well, I just continue to live my life the way it is. So I just need to not go there. But I've got all the information for you guys. And I think that's why my head is spinning, is because I've been doing all of this and now I'm ready to present what I have found for you. If you have seen the movie The Matrix, then you totally understand my reference at the very beginning of the episode. But if you haven't seen it, well, stop the podcast right now. Go on a 3-movie bender and watch all 3 Matrix movies and then come back. Also, if you love Keanu Reeves, then you will for sure go watch those. And if you love him and you haven't seen them, well, I don't know who you are. Anyway, back to this. We may or may not be living in a simulation. And before we get into that, guys, I put out a Patreon. Go be patrons and get extra episodes every month, extra things. I'm going to do a live where you guys can ask me questions or whatever. I think I have a lot of bloopers when I record this. I edit them out. So this is a really cool, calm, collected, finished product. So you think wow, she's really good at podcasting. I'm not. I just am really good at editing, and it makes it sound like I'm good at podcasting. However, I've thought about doing a bloopers reel where I just record everything and then pull out, obviously I'd have to do a lot of editing at the end, and pull out all the bloopery things and put it into a little audio for you guys to laugh at. So if you want that, let me know. But that's my plug for Patreon. Go check it out. Anyway, on to the simulation argument. This has got my head spinning. So here we go. In 2001, a Swedish philosopher, his name is Nick Bostrom, he published a draft of his paper, and then later he fully published his actual paper, I think in 2003, presenting his simulation argument. The paper argued that at least one of the following 3 things are true. Number 1, the human species is very likely to go extinct before reaching a, quote, post-human stage. So we won't ever see a time of technological maturity, meaning no civilization ever or will ever, has ever or will ever reach an age of technological maturity. Every civilization out there before us has gone extinct before they've met technological maturity. Whether it is from their own doing or a force of nature, force of God, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're completely gone extinct. Number 2, any post-human civilization is extremely unlikely to run a significant number of simulations of their evolutionary history. So this means that if a civilization does reach that technological maturity, they do not run simulations as to what could have occurred instead of basically what did occur, or just run simulations for the hell of it. I don't know why, but or they have deemed it unethical, or for some other reason they just don't run simulations. They're not interested in it. It's unethical because if we are in a simulation, we feel things. We are living these things. These things are very real to us. Even if it's a simulation to whoever's running it, it's very real to us. This is our real life. So they could have deemed it unethical in the future. Maybe, potentially. That's number 2. Number 3 is that we are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. So you got 3 options here, right? So this suggests that if we become post-humans who run ancestor simulations, we are living in a simulation ourselves. According to an article that I found from the Psychology of Extraordinary Beliefs at Ohio State University, quote, ancestor simulations is a belief proposed by Nick Bostrom, a professor at Oxford University. He believes that in the future, it will be possible to simulate the actions of all the neurons in the brain and stimulate the sensory input to the brain with enough accuracy to convince the simulation that it is a real person. For it to happen at such a scale as our universe, it would be impossible, but Bostrom made some calculations that show that a super advanced civilization could do this on such a scale that these virtual minds tremendously outnumber real minds, unquote. So basically, there's a lot more simulated people than real people if this is a simulation. However, if this is a simulation, we are not technologically advanced enough to have created it ourselves. So somebody else would have had to create it. Like, we don't have that technology yet. Or what? Anyway. Why do people feel like we live in a simulation instead of the other two arguments being correct? Well, okay, first of all, it seems highly unlikely that every civilization ever has become extinct without reaching technological maturity. All of them, everywhere. And I know that it says, like, this could come from, like, them killing themselves or an outside force, but how and why are they dying before this level of maturity? Like, it's such a extreme case. Like, every civilization there will die before they reach this technological maturity. Although, if you believe in aliens, and I assume most of you skeptics believe in aliens. If you're listening to this episode or this show, just in general, you probably believe in aliens. And they typically come with, spaceships. So then that, it's well documented that they come with spaceships. That when we see them, it's a UFO, unidentified flying object. We're assuming that there's aliens inside the flying object, right? They're spaceships. This would mean that even at their advanced level of technology, even as far, like, they're flying in our atmosphere, observing or abducting or whatever they are doing in our atmosphere, they still aren't at a technological mature enough stage where they will become extinct yet. It's just highly unlikely that every civilization's going to die before then, or like completely go extinct. It's seems odd to me. It also seems a bit odd to say that once they do, like, a civilization, or us potentially, who knows, does reach a mature state, that we are just like, yeah, we're not interested in running simulations. And don't get me wrong, like, I understand, like, the ethics behind it, like, being unethical, because we are thinking and feeling, and there's genocide, and there's plagues, and there's death, and there's a lot of sadness, and you got starvation, you've got things all over our world right now that are not happy things. And there's plenty of happy things, don't get me wrong. Like, you have babies, or you get married, you fall in love, you win a huge championship that you've been working towards. There's plenty of happy things, but the sad tend to outweigh the happy typically.
Did you know that over 40% of Americans have a hard time swallowing pills? So when it's time to take your vitamins, large capsules and pills are out of the question. We know that gummy vitamins exist, but they're full of sugar, they get stuck in your teeth, and they only contain a fraction of the nutrients you need. Luckily, Easy Melts has discovered the ultimate vitamin sweet spot. Vitamins that melt in your mouth, taste like a treat, and are packed with nutrients ready for absorption, all without an ounce of sugar. For a limited time, Easy Melts is giving listeners a free 3-month supply of vitamin D3 with their first purchase. To claim your free D3 vitamins, visit try.easymelts.com/spring24. That's the letter E, the letter Z, melts.com/spring24. Say goodbye to the old way of taking your vitamins and say hello to the easy way. Menopausal and perimenopausal women, listen up. It's time to take control of your health and comfort, and Winona is here to help. Winona is a telemedicine company for menopause care who believes that your symptoms are real, important, and deserve to be taken seriously. And for many women, this starts with hormone replacement therapy. Winona's HRT is made with plant-based, bioidentical hormones rather than synthetic ones, so it better aligns with your body to offer relief from hot flashes, weight gain, and other uncomfortable symptoms. 80% of women who use Winona find relief within just 90 days. So, what are you waiting for? Get started today. Visit buywinona.com today to start your free visit. With free shipping and the ability to pause or cancel at any time, your path to wellness has zero obligations. Use code SPRING24 at buywinona.com for 25% off your first treatment plan. That's BYWINONA.com for 25% off. Winona, menopause care made easy.
And this is coming from somebody who's in a first world country, right? So I don't know, living in a third world country, if maybe the sad outweighs I don't know, if the happy outweighs the sad or sad outweighs the happy, it doesn't matter, right? In our world right now. And I understand the ethics behind this, right? However, you're not curious as to, like, if you change some historical event. For example, and this, I'm just throwing it out there because it's such a big example in our recent history. What if Germany and the Nazis had actually won World War II instead of us winning World War II? You know? So what if that would have happened? What would the world look like today? You're telling me that that's not intriguing? Like, you wouldn't want to run a simulation just to be like, how would the world be different if this happened? How would the world be different if there wasn't a Black Plague? How would the world be different? Like, there's so many questions, and you could run a million simulations to, like, change things or do things and tweak things. And honestly, the simulation theory makes sense with the Mandela effect we did last week. I'm just throwing it out there and connecting the dots here. But that, I mean, it seems intriguing to me. And if we go back to the ethics for a second, there are plenty of times, and again, I understand the ethics behind this. There are plenty of times that some things have been deemed unethical in America and are done in European countries or elsewhere in the world. I'm thinking of one thing in particular where I'm like, yeah, in European countries, some of them do it and some of them don't. And then in, like, messing with DNA when you're gonna have a baby. And you can, they can take the sperm and the egg outside of the bodies and basically IVF, right? But in some European countries, they will actually, like, mess with the DNA to try to give the babies, like, red hair instead of brown hair or whatever, right? Well, in America right now, it's unethical. I watched Netflix about it. So I was thinking about it because my husband was like, oh, that would be really cool. And I was like, I don't know if I'd want to mess with the DNA of our baby. Anyway, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because in this simulation theory, for this to be deemed unethical in the future, like if they decide not to run simulations, it has to be deemed unethical by everybody, and everybody has to do it together. And that there are some rule breakers out there. So even if it's deemed unethical, some guy somewhere, it could be a girl, I'm not discriminating here. Somebody somewhere is probably like, oh, well, let's just see what happens, right? You're telling me that nobody else is intrigued, like what would have happened if the Nazis would have won World War II? Anyway, that's not the point. The point is somebody could be running an experiment by themselves in their basement or in their mother's attic or whatever, right? And even if it's deemed unethical. However, in this situation, in this scenario number 2, it did say it has to be running a significant amount of simulations. And they talk about, like, billions of simulations. Like, there's a lot of them. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. But I don't know. It's also odd that if you reach technological maturity, you don't want to run simulations. However, like, maybe there's something else in their minds. Maybe they're, like, fighting an intergalactic war. I don't know. Like, anything could have happened by then. But we also already have so many computers like running simulations or algorithms all the time, and we are nowhere near technological maturity to like we play video games such as The Sims, or we create small simulations of things that are happening that aren't actually happening. Like this is we're already creating simulations. Granted, we have not even touched the edge of technological maturity that I'm assuming that they want us to get to, or I don't know who they are. I think maybe we are in a simulation. Who knows what's happening, right? Okay, so if the first two are unlikely, then the third must be true. So if we've reached technological maturity and we're running simulations, we are for sure living in a simulation ourselves. Elon Musk and Lex Fridman, if you haven't listened to Lex Fridman podcast, I got a lot of information for this podcast from his podcast. Very good information. Anyway, they both think that there's a very small chance that we're actually living in one of the first two options. They both think that we're probably living in a simulation. And if we are in a simulation, there are most likely billions being run at the same time, like I said just a second ago. And they feel real. I mean, we feel real right now. This feels real. Me talking to you, I feel like a real person. People really die. It feels real. So, in those simulations, because it feels so real, the simulations could start running simulations. And Elon thinks that there's about a 1 in a billion chance that we aren't actually in a simulation. Because, for example, like I just said, if we are a simulation, I'm assuming we're in a simulation right now, right? And then we went and ran The Sims or Grand Theft Auto or whatever video game, right? Now we are creating a simulation. And I don't know if they can feel and they feel like people die the way we feel people die. I don't know. Maybe we're not technologically advanced enough to create that yet. However, we're a simulation running a simulation. And if we're going to get further ahead in technology, we can start running more real simulations. Then it makes sense that we would probably be in a simulation ourselves, because there's billions and billions of simulations being run at the same time, simultaneously. Nick Bostrom, who is the guy that started this whole thing, only puts about a 20%-ish chance on us being in a simulation, although he does say what's comforting is that if we are in a simulation, then whatever higher being or power or whatever you believe in, if you believe in something like that, it is most likely some version of us, and they're most likely real. So if you're one of those people, you're like, I don't know if God's real. I don't know, like, I don't know. I'll be a good person just in case, right? Or like, God's not real. It's dumb. Whatever, whoever you are, or you believe in God, it doesn't matter. If we're in a simulation, then technically there is a God. Or like, I don't know if you'd call them a God, but they're something controlling us. So that's kind of comforting, right? Like, it's one little thing. Like, if we are in a simulation, well, at least we're not alone. I don't know. So here's some proof that we are in a simulation. Just a little proof, just to like make sure you feel good about yourself after this episode. In a simulation, there must be an upper limit. So like an absolute law. This cannot be explained. It's just basically accepted as an assumption or a given. And in this case, our simulation's upper limit is the speed of light. We have not found anything that goes faster than it. The assumption would be if we went faster than the speed of light, we would crash the simulation, or we would never be able to go faster than the speed of light. It's also assumed that is the absolute law of our simulation, because it could be that we are not scientifically advanced enough to have found something faster than the speed of light, and maybe we haven't found our upper limit yet. But until we go faster than the speed of light, we will never know what the limit is, or if that's our limit, or if we're even in a simulation at all. Like, we won't be able to find out. And if we're not in a simulation, luckily we're not technologically advanced enough to kill ourselves yet. So that's kind of comforting. Although there's not really, that's not true, because there's not really like a timeline, like a time frame as like when the civilization can go extinct. The dinosaurs had basically no technology and they're gone. So, You could count that as a civilization, right? I'm sure there's plenty of others that like died well before they even had any technology. And here we have, I mean, you're listening to this on most likely a phone, maybe a tablet. You're listening to this podcast. I'm recording right now with, I have headphones on, I have a microphone in front of me, I have a computer that's recording it so I can post it to a site so you guys can get it onto your phones. Like we have technology, as much technology as the aliens who are flying in our atmosphere watching / abducting us. No, because we're not flying into aliens' atmospheres watching / abducting them. So, but there's no timeline. We could literally kill ourselves anytime before reaching technological maturity. So that's really comforting too. This one's got me, guys. It's got me good because I don't like it. I don't like it. If we're in a simulation, I don't want to be in a simulation. Either way, like I said at the beginning, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm done with it. Here we are. This actually could explain the Mandela effect, because if we're in a simulation, then somebody could have just changed something and it doesn't necessarily have to change our memories. But then now when we fact check our memory, we're incorrect. And that's why we could all be remembering one thing one way and then they changed it, whoever's running the simulation, and now it's another way. I don't think I included that last week in that episode, but here it is for you. So if you haven't listened to the Mandela Effect episode, go back and listen to that because it was pretty good. I mean, it's my episode and I think they're all good. That's not true. I don't think they're all good. That's not true. But I thought that was pretty good. So this is another good example of something that could be causing the Mandela Effect. So that actually gives me a little comfort there. I don't know how to feel about this. But until next time, my friends, as always, stay skeptical and try not to go insane thinking about this theory too much, like I am currently doing. I love you all. See you next week. Hey friends, The Rabbit Hole is an independent podcast with everything you hear done by me, Dani Mercy. I appreciate all of your support. Please rate and review wherever you're listening. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at rabbit.holepodcast. And thank you, Zakar Balaha, for our awesome intro.